Park Lane Neighborhood Association, and I am proud to say that I am part of Baltimore Action Catalyst for Change. And we want to see changes take place here in our city. We realize that we cannot do it in and by ourselves. So we are a collaboration of different people coming together to change Baltimore. I want to say again, welcome to each and every one of you. I'll say at this time that I want to say welcome to all of our elected officials, anybody from Baltimore City Police Department, any clergy that are online, all civic leaders, and all panelists on this afternoon. Whether you're Zooming in or calling in, we appreciate the fact that you are taking part of this town hall on this evening. And we want you to know up front that you'll be able to submit any questions, any comments. You can do it through chat, or you can do it through your comments there. We have somebody that is with us on this afternoon who is going to be taking your questions. They will be passing them on down to our moderator, and then he will be giving them to our panelists on this evening. So this is our first one, so we ask you to be patient with us as we work through this process. One of the things I said earlier, change does not take place overnight. It is, in fact, a process. We didn't get this way overnight, and it is not going to change overnight. But I do want you to know that it can and it will change. I want to say, before I go any further, that I want to give special thanks to our moderator, Pastor Marvin McKenstry, Jr. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him in a second. And I want to give a special thanks to Choo Smith and to Karen Bullock.
Hey, Josh.
She is helping us out on this evening. So I am so very, very grateful for what the Choo Smith organization is doing for us. At this time, I'm going to read a little bit about our moderator, Marvin McKenstry. And I told him, I know I won't be able to read it all, but so that you, for those that are not familiar with him and all, I want you to know he is the senior pastor of Victory House Worship Center. He is a leading advocate for youth here in Baltimore. He works as a job developer for the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. And he is the founder of Helping Overcome Obstacles Daily. And I have here the acronym HOOD. I like that, the HOOD Project. It's a mentoring program that works directly with males ages 5 to 18 on basic life skills that will help them develop through community service projects. Pastor McKinstry is a founding member of Reconcile Baltimore, 501c3 organization. Their sole focus is the reconciliation of Baltimore citizens. And see, that's why God hooked us up, all right? He just has a way. I know I probably shouldn't have said that, but anyway, he just gave us the hookup. So I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative of that. Pastor McKinstry was a member of the former Mayor Catherine Pugh's transition team on public safety. And I won't read the rest of it because of time's sake, but I do want to say as a result of his work, Pastor McKinstry was invited to the White House to meet with President Barack Obama's transition team to share their work. And since we're in this time of election, I can just say I was never invited to the White House, but I did have an opportunity to work on his campaign in 2008. And so I was very pleased with that. So something else we got in common here. All right, people, we're getting ready to roll. We're gonna have our moderator for the evening to come on board. We'll come back a little bit later on. I almost forgot. Let me do this one thing. Okay, want to introduce our partners here. We've got Danielle Austin Pender from Excellence and Ambition. We've got Reverend Isaac James from Gospel Messengers, yours truly. And from Park Lane Neighborhood Association, we've got Catherine Nicholas, Sisters Saving the City. And we have our BACT advisor, Reverend Teresa Mercer. She is not with us on this evening, but she is our advisor. So we're grateful again for everyone. Pastor Marvin McKenstry, it is in your hands.
Well, I want to say first, giving honor to God, and I want to express my gratitude for the Baltimore Action Catalyst Team for giving me the opportunity to be the moderator for this very important dialogue at this very important time in Baltimore, as well as on a national level. These are conversations that we must have. If you've been watching the news, you see Philly is going in right now. And I just heard that there's something else going on in DC. So we got to have these very critical conversations. I like the format that was handed to me because the idea for tonight is that we have a solutions-driven conversation. And I want to say that for all of the contributors tonight, that we want to be here tonight to not continue to be in the spin cycle or to regurgitate the problems. We know them very well. We're very much acquainted with what the issues are. We're expecting that our panel of experts and even our other contributors will be able to lead us down a path of solutions, that we might even have some action items to take away from here with all of the wonderful organizations that are represented and doing great work in our city. We can put our hands to the plow, that we might be able to bring the next level of change. With that being said, I want to begin to introduce our panelists. And the way we're going to do it, I'm going to give a simple and brief introduction of our panelists, and I'm going to turn it over to them to do all of the accolades and all of the titles and everything that is attributed to them. And this will cover their introduction or our entry question. So first, I want to invite to come and tell us a little bit about herself. Very good friend of mine, a powerful sister here in Baltimore, doing a lot of great work, Miss Danelle Austin Pender of Excellence and Ambition.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Oh my God, you guys, you have no idea how light my heart feels right now, because we are here and we are about action. And I have my young lady who's a great help to us, Miss Amira Lawson. She's a part of our program here at Sisters Saving the City. I am the founder of Excellence and Ambition. We help young people start businesses, and we also do workforce development program through our YBC program. Amira is a leader and a founder of YBC. They help build they do construction contracts. They also do art. She's a wonderful artist. They have a t-shirt business. They're making masks. They're designing shoes, and doing some other great things in the community. I also have another young lady who will get on as well through the YES program, who is a partner of ours as well, providing services to youth who we serve age 14 through 21 in Baltimore City.
All right, thank you for that. My next introduction is Miss Amira Lawson. And even though she introduced you, Amira, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself. We're having difficulty with your audio, Amira.
I've been working at the center for almost like 3 years now going on. I met Mr. Jimmy through the center, and we started YBC along with myself, my sister, and other youth that came through YouthWorks actually, and we just really try to recruit kids to come through and inspire their business and inspire what they want to do with themselves. So I'm an artist myself.
That's awesome. A youthless movement is a useless movement. So every time we get a chance to hear from our young people, it adds great value to these conversations, because we can always get in our circles and talk about it, but they're the ones that's greatest impacted. So Amira, I thank you for being with us tonight. Ms. Bria Jones, resident of Park Heights and a participant with the YES program.
Bria is having technical difficulties, so she'll be on when her phone charges a little bit more.
All right.
I'm sorry.
So we have Chaplain, Mr. David Chap Lovelace, a community organizer and community advocate, who's going to tell us a little bit more about himself.
How are you guys doing? Just real briefly, I am a chaplain for the community through the Baltimore Police Department. I work with Parks and Recs as assistant director in 2 rec centers in Southeast, and I volunteer in Baltimore City Public Schools, as well as just, you'll find me all over the city from Cordelia and Ricestown Road, all the way down to Greektown, Cherry Hill, all the way out to Edgewood in the county. Wherever my people are, wherever there's a need, you'll find me. All those titles aside, I won't necessarily be speaking with authority wearing a chaplain BPT hat or for BCRP or Baltimore City Public Schools, just because I haven't been authorized to do so. But I'm here to definitely share my experience, and hopefully it's useful and relevant. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Chap. I'm certain that it's going to be more than enough. We also have Miss Charm Lewis with us, who's got a lot of powerful initials behind her name. I'm excited to meet her because she's doing the great work that needs to be done around mental health. Miss Lewis, how you doing tonight?
Hi, thank you for having me. I am Mrs. Charm Lewis. I am a licensed clinical social worker. That's all those letters mean. And I'm currently, my full-time job currently is working at Morgan State University, actually training master's level students to be public child welfare workers. And also I'm a mompreneur, so you will see my son Sebastian running in and out of the camera and perhaps pretending to be the Incredible Hulk at certain points of this conversation. I also am the co-owner and COO at Whole Life Center, a behavioral health center. Yes, go Bears. I am a 2-time Morgan graduate, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in social work at the Morgan State University. So I hope to be a 3-time graduate very soon. And my primary work has been around addressing trauma-based issues. So that's just me.
So you over there with my good friend, big brother, and mentor, Dr. Kevin Daniels.
The great Dr. Kevin Daniels.
Yes, sir. That's my guy. All right. And last but certainly not least, I get the pleasure and privilege of calling this guy my little brother, but it's only because he's younger. He's a giant in the city of Baltimore doing great work in the kingdom and in the community. Mr. Rashad, or Pastor Rashad Singletary. Talk to us, man.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well this evening. Again, my name is Rashad Singletary. For the last 8 years, I worked with Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice program called Safe Streets. For the last year, I've been serving as the Community Violence Program Manager for Life Bridge. I'm the founder of Commission Impact, which is an organization that's going to be helping faith-based communities with engaging high-risk communities that have gun violence, sex trafficking, things of that nature. And last but not least, my biggest title is I Serve God.
Amen. I don't know why Pastor Spence thinks she's going to get all these preachers on here. They're going to get a little churchy at some points, but we are going to definitely control the traffic, and we're going to make sure that we do these much needed topics some justice. With that being said, we're going to be talking tonight around crime and crime prevention, safety, trauma, and mental illness. We're going to definitely chop it up on here tonight because the first thing that I noticed as a person that works everywhere from boots in the ground in the community to what I do in my profession and even in ministry, these things are all intertwined. So the people that we have tonight, whether it's Miss Lewis with the those big initials she got behind her name and get ready to get 2 more, or Danelle and the great work they're doing in the Park Heights community, there's a lot of intertwining places for this work, or Pastor Singletary. So tonight, we're going to try to have a little bit of an organic flow because that's how I like to flow. And I want to start it off by putting it out there and saying, as we talk about having solutions-oriented conversations, as we know, we have a murder rate where we on pace to even eclipse what we had last year. And we see the violence. We know that we're in the middle of an election year, but politicians can't do it by themselves. We as community members, we as a community, where do we rally around and unify to begin to address things like the crime, the culture of no snitching and things of that nature? I want to start it off with you, Pastor Singletary, because your amazing workshop, Homicide in the Church, and your work deals with trying to get probably the biggest mainstay and stakeholder in the Black community, which is the faith institutions, more involved in doing this work. How do we come together and infiltrate and integrate ourselves to be more impactful in this work of crime prevention?
Well, first of all, I think the one big thing that we have to address is the fear of our own people. Most of the individuals who we call high risk, that could be someone who could shoot someone or be shot themselves. When we look at the demographic of those individuals, most of the times they're in between the ages of 14 to 24, 26, right? And so these are our sons, these are our daughters, these are children. I think number one, we have to deal with the fear factor that a lot of us do not know how to engage high risk individuals. Most of us, if we are in the faith community, our churches are definitely within high risk areas. So one thing that you have to do is you have to do a demographic analysis. What is inside of my community? What is not inside of my community? Then how do I build programming around those disparities in order to reach out to those individuals? It's nothing worse than trying to engage people with a resource that they do not want. You will definitely feel the real if you go out to try to give somebody, offer them something they don't want. Then number two, treat them as if they've done any wrong. They're human beings. We've got to deal with them where they are. And that also means we have to talk their lingo. We have to understand where they are. Most of the individuals that we are engaging are individuals who are living in very poverty-stricken areas, food deserts, lack of education, lack of employment. And so we can't go to them as if we are savior. We have to go to them being meek and meeting them where they are. That's two of the things. And then finally, what I'll say is, the last piece is from the faith-based community, we cannot shove our faith in their faces. We cannot shove our faith in their faces. One thing that Jesus taught us, and I'm a preacher, so I have to go to that side. One thing Jesus taught us, that before he could be a redeemer, he made sure he provided a resource. If they needed food, he gave them food. Because you can't speak to somebody, help somebody if their stomach is growling. It's impossible for you to empower somebody when they're thinking about the domestic violence that's going on in their house. So you have to find out those essential pieces to what may be going on, and then you can begin, I would say, to case manage how you begin to deal with certain individuals or groups that you're trying to serve.
Danelle, I want to jump over to you because you being right there smack on Pimlico, right in the thick of things. I know Pimlico, you know, I have the pleasure of knowing Baltimore from two sides of the fence. Being a former drug dealer and somebody that's been shot 4 times, went to prison twice, and God snatched me right out of the gutter. I know it from what it was to me then to what it is now, and you right in the hot spot. When you look at the work, the great work that you guys are doing up there, where do you see the need for coming together of the community stakeholders, talking about programs like yours, businesses, faith institutions? Can you talk to us about how we can expand and build capacity towards greater solutions for great work like programs such as yours?
Asking, Brother Marvin. It's all about unity and collaboration. I think that when it comes down to the funding system that has been created, there are a lot of nonprofit, a lot of us that work in the area, but we don't work with each other because there is a competition when it comes to the funding sources. And because there's competition when it comes to the funding sources, it's like, well, you know, it's this, I'm trying to get this grant. If you're trying to get this grant too, then we can't bang together. A lot of the system is also that if, like for Amira, she comes to us, correct? So if she were to go down to Catherine's family center and gets resources there, they couldn't necessarily put her on their attendance because it would be, we are both funded through the same funder. And so we are in a position where, no, we're going to hold Amira to ourselves and not necessarily spread her thin, even though we may not provide the service that she might need. And so wherever, and so lately, what we've been doing is working with other organizations and serving families So for example, if we have, if Amira had a younger sibling, that younger sibling can go to another program. And then when they get a certain age, they would then come to our program. Or we have it where we're all serving food. It's a food distribution. I know that there's food distribution happening in another location, then I'm going to blast that on my Facebook page. Anything that's going on in the Towanda area, anything that's going on in over at Park Circle, if I find out about it, I'm going to blast it on my Facebook page, so that, and the same thing, I expect that when I put out something that's related to Sister Saving the City or Excellence and Ambition or what we're doing right here, that the other organizations that are here are also blasting it out, so that the families are being serviced, you know, through our various organizations. And so we're not competing, we're working together. So to unify and collaborate, that will cause a lot of the issues as far as service is concerned, to come forward.
Charm, I want to jump over to you real quick, because this trauma thing, I believe trauma, I believe everything mental health related is directly related to the crime in our community. And one of the ways that we're missing it in the sense of prevention is because we're not on the front end. I once said that they should research the address of every young person that either dies to murder or convicted of murder, find what slumlord house they lived in, and do the research on the lead levels that they had, and then go hold those landlords accountable. What do we need to do to really put our better foot forward, or our best foot forward, as it pertains to really dealing with the need to understand that these quote unquote killers out here are really people who don't have the resources to deal with the mental health issues that can drive you to that way of life?
I think so much of it is what has already been said, but one of the things that I think is with us, right, the helping professionals doing the work that we need to do to understand our own levels of trauma, right, that prevent us from coming together, that prevent us from changing the dynamics of the system. You know, back in the day, our kind, right, people of color, we had something called mutual aid, right? Well, we weren't looking for funding sources. We were our own funding sources. And so we could come together and say, this is how we are going to provide for our community versus being competitive. That way I can get, you know, I can get Sister Saving the Circle expertise. We can get Whole Life Center expertise. And so I think that's one of the things is really those that W.E.B. Du Bois would call the talented 10th, right? Those of us that are on this call, really understanding who we are as a people and the power that we can command when we come together, because that unity piece is big. And then on the trauma piece, I think it really is what Rashad said earlier about honoring the humanity of people and understanding that things don't happen in a vacuum and treating them as such. And then on a political level, you know, continuing to challenging those systems that in the name of rehabilitation jail our people, right? And don't give them the services that they need. And so it's really a number of different levels. It's holding these businesses, these mental health agencies that are in our communities accountable for the work that they are doing. It's making them prove that they are doing the work and not just holding space in our community, that they are out there, that they are giving. Because let me tell you something, in a moment of transparency, when a behavioral health clinic becomes large, they command lots of dollars. Those dollars should be put into our communities, not into their pockets and the pockets of their families, okay? Do that, but also put them into your community. If you can't prove that you've been here for 10 years and you haven't lowered recidivism, you haven't changed the dynamics of substance use, you're not giving, you're not partnering, that's problematic. But it's us that have to say, hey, what are you guys doing in this community? Tom,
let me throw this at you real quick, because what I've noticed from, again, that boots on the ground work that I do in Southwest Baltimore, Poe Homes, and other communities, is one of the silent predators in Baltimore City in its urban communities is PRP programs, and nobody is talking about it. PRP programs is billing and invoicing, and they're not providing any services.
And let me just say, because we are building one currently in response to our levels of disappointment in terms of how PRP is one of the most powerful, could be one of the most powerful elements we have in our community, because it is that hands and feet of mental health in the community. And like I said, I feel like we need to be holding them accountable for. It's not, PRP is not designed to be a babysitting service, right? It's a rehabilitation service. What are you teaching the family members? What are you teaching the children? What are you teaching the adults? How are you impacting this community outside of a babysitting service, right? But it's knocking on the door and asking those questions, doing that grassroots work, saying, what's happening here other than the billables? I think a part of it too, on a political level, policy level, that's changing in Maryland because it's been exploited. So believe you me, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're gonna see a change in PRP because of that level of exploitation. But what we are seeking to do is build our program not on what we have seen, but literally building something that has never been seen in Baltimore City before, or that's seen on a lower level. We want to be not just in our community, but of our community, right? Not a business that's in the community and nobody knows our name. They've never seen us out there knocking on doors. That's so inappropriate. Like our standard here, right, is community centered, is culturally relevant. So as Rashad said, we're speaking the language of our culture, right? That we've gotten some letters, as you said, we got some education, but we know the real work is done in relationship. If we want to change crime, then we got to ask people what's going on, right? We got to be like, what's happening? Even if they cussing you out. My neighbor, they ratchet. I live in the hood. I'm asking her, sis, what's going on? Like, do you understand that if you cussing your kid out every day, do you understand the psychological effect? Now, she mad and pissed off and cussing me out, but it's my responsibility to ask the question and to plant the seed. We got to get out there and do the work. And as Rashad said, not being afraid of our people. Believe me, I'm praying like, Lord Jesus, please don't let, her blow my house up or something, or but I gotta be out there doing the work if I say I'm a social worker.
I love that we see it from that perspective, because one of the things that I can say about most of the panelists who I've had the ability to work with is that you guys do it from your position and as citizens and people who just love Baltimore City. I want to jump down to you, Chat, because one of the things that I put out there initially was dealing with what has been dubbed the no snitching culture. I want to really kind of put that language on the shelf, with you being someone that works in one of the critical components that's designed to do that healing work. Also, the response work when we have murders happen in our city. Where are we and where do we need to be going as it pertains to healing the relationships that are causing murders to not be solved? The breach relationship between community and police, where the valuable info, I tell people all the time, the streets talk, they just don't testify. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Definitely so. They just don't testify.
They do, and let me tell you that a lot of the language and vocabulary you guys are, I have in my notes, you guys are already saying, meeting people where they're at, unity and collaboration. Danelle, one great point Charm said was like not relying on, turning to each other, relying on each other, not so much the agencies. But my big thing is relationships, because relationships, you can put people in better context and not just kind of judge them. So what I do, because I float between all y'all and I serve all y'all, and I'll say right off the front, I'm the white boy in the room, but I'm from Baltimore, 42 years, Alameda, 41st and Cater. I'm an ally, and I'm not ever here to usurp y'all's voice, but to serve my people and make sure your voices are heard. That being said, I spend my entire life building relationships in this city so that we have authority to speak in people's lives. It's funny you asked about, snitches get stitches, because I start with my first graders and my kindergartners even, because we got to start young so that this disappears. I teach them that there are consequences for our behavior. And so if we make a decision, good or bad, there's consequences, and we shouldn't be scared. What happens is a system designed to oppress us, and snitches get stitches is a way for the system to oppress the truth. And if the truth is oppressed, then we're never really going to meet our true healing potential. We need to have the truth out there. And so I encourage my kids, like if somebody did something, even on a small scale, you're not snitching on them, but you're making them a better person by allowing them to experience the consequences for the decision they made. Because all of us here that are in a, that are from a spiritual standpoint, we know that our past doesn't define us, but it refines us. And when I suffer consequences for decisions I make, God is making me a better human being, maturing me spiritually through that. So I try to encourage the kids to be honest and get away from that snitches get stitches, because in a sense, and even my teenagers understand it, they already see, we have the talk with them as my kids are mixed. So we have the talk with them about being Black in America. And part of that is that rhetoric where it's all that's happening is that we're perpetuating this idea of suppressing the truth. And if we suppress the truth, we can't get to the truth and we can't really get healing. So I think it's very important for us to teach, to start very basically and say, as we're mentoring young people and we're training young people up to replace us, we need to make sure they understand that in all my relationships with all my young men, and there's a few young women, honesty is first and foremost, because even if you've messed up and even if you've made really poor decisions that have heavy consequences, if you're honest with me about them, then I can help you. And I can help you process through those consequences. But if you're not being honest with me, I'm trying to help you work on something that's not even real. I think that's my approach. I think relationships in general, when things are happening, for instance, on the East Side, there was like 3 this week that I'm aware of, 3 shootings this week where families were able to reach out because of relationships. So I can't come in if I don't know you, and I'm just like, especially looking like I do, if I'm the white boy coming into a community and oh, this happened, how can I help, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be hesitant. You don't know me, you don't know, if you can trust me. But if I have relationships established already in the community and in the city, when these things happen, that, hopefully you know me and you know that you can trust me and you can say, Chap, I don't know what to do. What's the next step? And we can talk about it and we can connect you with whatever you think you need. And like going back to meeting people where they're at, we can connect you with what you think you need. And then when you realize, maybe that's not exactly what you need, we can parlay that into the next step. So like for instance, with the COVID stuff, families were coming to me and we were getting people like grocery lists, and one family put like Oreo cookies on the grocery list, and the pastor I was working with was like, don't do that, give them what they need. I said, well, let's just meet them. It's a simple example, but I was like, let's meet them where they're at. Let's get them Oreo cookies and ice cream. And just, because right now they don't have a capacity to really receive any kind of counsel or anything beyond what they think they need right now. So if we can meet them where they're at, even if it's silly, those people will, that particular family, they realize like, what am I do with like Doritos and Oreos? And the next list they gave us was like beans and rice and things that they really needed to get through the week. And we need to evolve with them, but meet them where they're at and show understanding and compassion that, you might not have a capacity with what we're trying to give you right now. So let's meet you where you're at and let's bring you alongside of us. And I don't want to take up too much time, but one more example of that mentality. Maybe 2 years ago, I was in the Navy. I've been trained on how to survive in the ocean, everything. The sea dragged me out and I was drowning and my wife was with me and I knew everything I was supposed to do. My wife was trying to speak to me, but in that moment of trauma, I didn't even have a capacity to process what she was telling me. I knew to swim sideways, I knew to do all these things, but because of my panic and my immediate response to my trauma, I wasn't able to, my immediate reaction, I wasn't able to respond with the training I had done because I was panicking and I needed to be met where I was at. And obviously I survived. But I say that to say that even out here in the city, everyday life is trauma 24/7. And so we need to meet people where they're at. We need to bring them alongside, calm them down, so that they have a capacity to receive the other things that we're trying to give them.
Thank you for that, Chap. I want to shift over. Y'all may not agree, but to me, who the most important person in the room is, and that's Miss Amira. I have 5 beautiful children between the ages of 18 and 29, and I work in an office where we directly serve 18 to 24-year-olds. And the thing that has been most impactful for me working with that population is understanding that I have to be quiet and let them tell me how to serve them, let them tell me how to write, let them write their own prescription, and then through the resources and relationships I have, fill the prescription that they write. I teach my young people a term called social capital, where you always get a name, you get a number, you get something that you can double back and you can put that relationship you built to work for you. So Miss Amira, I want to ask you a question. I want you to take off your excellence and ambition and your sister saving the city hat. And as a young person, right? Talk to us if you had the opportunity to speak to all of these adults on here, because many times we think we doing the right thing. We get in the room and we plan for you. If you had to tell us about some of the things that we're talking about, crime, trauma, in your own words, what would you tell us? Sit down, shut up, and this is what you really need to know from young people who are being directly impacted by this stuff.
I would say for me only being 16.
We can't hear you, Amira.
I would only say for me only being 16 and having the experience I have had is just really trust the process with young youth, young kids, because it's really, really hard. I had a lot of adults tell me, you know, you didn't have it hard yet, or, you know, you'll get there when you're grown. You don't have, you know, issues. But what they fail to realize is that it's the young people out here who are struggling, trying to survive. It's the young people out here who have mental health issues because of, like you said, trauma, because of the crime, because of people not listening. So if you don't hear my voice, it's really no connection. It's really not helping the community, really. If you don't hear what we need, if you don't hear that we need help, then there's really nothing you can do. I feel like a lot of adults should really try to understand that, you know, sometimes kids do have it harder. Sometimes, like I said, teenagers out here are, you know, really dropping. Friends of mine that I know of, 5 people this year and even in this month have they lost over violence. And it's ridiculous to me. It is really hard to go outside in your own community wondering if you will come back home or wondering if your family members will come back home. I don't want that for my community. Me personally, I want our community to be safe. I want us to be able to go outside and enjoy ourselves how it used to be, you know. I want us to be able to connect and to be able to speak out on stuff like this. I want us to be able to come together so the whole community, you know, can be a union how it was again, not be separated and segregated and basically, I don't know the right words, but, you know, down bad in the community, really.
Oh, down bad is good. I speak that language. You ain't got to find no words. I want you to talk just like Amira talk. That's powerful because, as I said before, that population has an intimacy or intimate connection with that. They're in my inline. If I want to know anything that's going on, and I serve specifically my hood, I grew up in Lexington Terrace Projects. The Poe homes is where I'm at. You can find me down there 4 or 5 days a week, 10 toes down there trying to see if I can grab one of them youngins and do something different with them. And them young people have an intimate acquaintance with that even me with my past can't touch. So I thank you for speaking so freely, and I hope that you would just continue tonight. Rashad, I want to swing it back around to you, bro, and kind of talk about what I consider to be a personal experience. About 4 years ago, I lost a friend of mine that I grew up with to a shooting, gun violence, right down in the neighborhood that I'm talking about. And then last week or 2 weeks ago, his son was killed right outside of Simmons Memorial Church the very same way, right? We have in Baltimore right now the plane, right? What literally took place within an hour, they had a picture of the shooter who shot my friend's son, a clear image of the shooter within 1 hour. But what we're seeing right now is a lot of opposition to this plane being in operation here in Baltimore from various reasons. The ACLU took up the fight. They went all the way to court and lost the court case. My question is this, not to get into the scrum or the dynamics of independently that project. are we in a place where we can afford, from somebody that does the violence interruption and reduction work directly, are we in a place where we can afford to turn down any effective solution?
Well, that's a lot.
It's loaded. Miss Spence said Pastor Spence said I could bring me some questions.
That's fine. No, that's good. No, I kind of, to answer that question, I'll kind of give a personal scenario and then to tell you why. I am in support of that, even though I had some opposition my own self for that. I'll never forget when I was working at Safe Streets 3 years ago, helping out this young man, 20 years old, to do a resume, never had a job before, yada, yada, yada. An hour later, my office is at 3939 Ricerstown Road, Shirley Avenue, right there. Hour later, I heard pop, 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 pop. So of course, I'm Safe Streets. I can't dunk under a table. I got to see what's going on. After the gunshots had stopped, I went outside, and the same young guy who was just in my office, who I just helped build a resume, was sitting dead right in the grass, right across the street from my job. Has anybody been caught for his murder? No. Why? Because there were no solutions, no technology in place to make sure that, and this is how I look at it now. Jail can save somebody's life too. When you take a life, see, the problem is most of the young people that are in the streets, they're used to destruction. They're used to death. If you've seen a dead body before you were 10 years old, and that's a common norm for you, when you go past blighted houses, nothing in the house, I mean, when you're seeing overdoses behind your house in alleys, this is a norm. And so killing somebody is normal. It's normal now. It's a health disparity to what I'm gonna call Dr. Lewis would say. It's a health disparity, right? And so we need multiple solutions in order to stop the violence, stop these young men and young women who are killing individuals, because there is something that they are missing too. To that point, there also needs to be a different way that we deal with individuals as such, other than throwing them inside of a prison cell, right? Putting somebody in a prison cell is not rehabilitation. It's not. Most of the individuals who become suspects of shootings are actually victims themselves, right? But the only way that we can stop all of this is we do need to have those necessary measures to make sure that, one, it's able to reduce the retaliation, because the streets know, I guarantee you, no one has ever been shot in Baltimore and nobody knew who did it. There's somebody who knows, right? But the problem is, because of, like we talked about earlier with Chaplain Champ, the whole, don't snitch, don't say anything. But I think about this: if that was your brother who got killed, wouldn't you want somebody to find out who killed your brother? But there's so many layers, and I think it goes back to what the young lady said. We're not listening to what the young people need in order for them to open up and actually feel like they can be open, because there's nothing there to rescue them, nothing there to protect them if they do say something. So I think there's a multiplicity of solutions that we need, but we have to be true. Stop with all this, these different things. Well, I'm not snitching, I'm not saying anything. No, we've got to work together as a collaborator. Yeah, I'm sorry you did what you did, but there are consequences for everything. But let's see how we can work on your rehabilitation while you are behind bars. Because I'm telling you now, from Safe Streets, I've dealt with several individuals who have second and third degree murder. If you wouldn't even know they killed somebody. Why? Because once again, the restorative power of not only God, but also people in a system coming together can help them, can put them back into a community and help them save people's lives as well.
So I want all the smoke tonight, and Pastor Spence gave me the steering wheel and told me I can drive this thing, and we're gonna chop it up tonight, right? I see Dr. Lewis on here. I see my good friend Valerie Matthews from Catherine Family Services. I see Excellence Ambition, Carter Chris White. So I'm gonna throw it out there, because we have heard the conversation, and it seems that it's kind of died down. The defund police conversation, which we all know is about a reallocation of funds. One of the things that we have on here as it pertains to crime is prevention. Prevention. Now, we've seen, first of all, there's programming such as focused deterrence and other things that can help to target some of the guys that recidivate through these cycles and pluck them out and get them into effective programming to change the trajectory of their life. I'm one of those people. When I came out of federal prison, I had somebody there to catch me and to give me opportunity to become who I've become today, whether it be the church or the programs that I processed through to get my diploma and everything, right? Then the second aspect of it is what we see right now in Philadelphia, and we've seen elsewhere, where if Dr. Lewis, with the right protections and safeties, could have got to that mental health call versus the police, empowered with the resources necessary, it would have preserved a life. I need us to have that conversation while we on here, because we're talking about prevention. I believe police are enforcement. I believe they're responsive. I believe all of that. And I do great work with police. I just don't believe that in the current climate, police can get on the front end and do the prevention. But I believe they getting $500 million in Baltimore. And a lot of more preventive work can be done by programs. Let's have a conversation. Let's chop it up. Let's talk about it. Come on, Dr. Lewis, jump on in here.
I'd like to say something in that area if possible. I have experience in that area quite a bit. I don't know if you can hear me.
James.
Yeah, I came up through Maryland re-entry. I'm an ex-offender and also an ex-drug dealer and drug user. The community today is scattered. When the re-entry programs were working all over the city, the recidivism rate went down, the violence rate went down. It's directly related to crime is directly related to the economy of any city. Unfortunately, Baltimore was doing fine, but about 12 years ago, they stopped defunding a lot of the programs that was at Goodwill, down at the Gate, down at Druid Heights, even out in Cherry Hill. The reason why I'm here tonight is that we need the services to come from out of these facilities and these programs. They need to have satellites in the community. And that's where I believe the church can play a role. We need to be creative in outreach. The things that we are using, and I don't want to defund the police, but I think we need to come up with creative solutions, alternatives. Our young men are on the street too much. Our church is right around the corner from Shirley Avenue. We've been in Park Heights 25 years. I've been involved in the shooting. There's some major gaps in services all over the city. Tonight, my question is not only about that, but what are we going to do about our young men that are on the street that don't have opportunities to go to other alternatives? Even during even through this pandemic right now, we're finding that our communities, that we need to come together. We need to come together, and that's one of the things I'm here tonight. And I have a lot of friends and organizations all over the city I didn't bring in because I think this dialogue is one of the best things we can do tonight. But we really need to assess what is working in this city and what's not.
So Pastor James, let me give you a quick bit of response to that, because one of the things that we're doing, we creatively set up this thing called Hiring on the Block, where I literally take a table and computer and go right to the neighborhood where they are standing on the corner. And over the course of the last month and a half, 27 people have gotten employed. I'm all for us being creative and innovative, because that didn't have anything to do with my job. I had to do it after 4:30 because of the pandemic, because my job wouldn't sanction it because our office is closed due to COVID, right? So that's a ministry measure that we took on to do. But what my question is, how much more can be done if, in fact, some of that $500 million is reallocated to programs that can do some of the front-end work? It's the biggest budget that we have in Baltimore, right? In Baltimore City, the police department's budget is the biggest. And the reality of it is, when we got a clearance rate, when we got 300 murders a year and a clearance rate that comes in at around 30% or less, I don't feel like we getting the bang for the buck. If we can't clear the murders, then we got to save the lives on the front end. Chum, was you about to jump in and share?
I want to share. I want to say something.
Come on, Miss Cooper Nicholas.
Oh, great. Thank you. I want to go back to something that Danelle said when she talked about the programs, what we're doing in the Park Heights community. So I want to go back 10 years where I founded Sister Saving the City, and our desire from the people, I went a lot of communities that have been mentioned, I actually drove to and talked to the people in that community. What can we do to stop this violence? And they gave me a whole list of things. And then we came up with, well, look, we need a youth village. We need a place where all of these programs, the training for the kids, it's a long list. Because, you know, we just talk about things. We go from here, there to everywhere. But going back to what Danelle said about funding, competing with a little bit of money. I don't know what it takes, and I really need y'all to help me. What does it take to resource our young people? What does it take? They're dying. The education is in the gutter. They are living. I was driving up the street today, and I see the Ouija boys, and you know they come over. They see me on the street all the time. Hi, Miss Catherine. You know, I always give them $1, y'all. Yeah, I do that. But this is how they are living. And sometimes folks think, oh, yeah, well, they're going to go home or they're going to do this and that. You know, some of them don't have a home to go to. They have been in situations where they, I can't think right now of which were group homes, I'll put it that way, that have been detrimental to them. But we just keep talking and talking and talking about what we're going to do. We have to come together. We have to make a stand. If we want to care about our kids, we can't just keep talking about it. We have to make something happen. And this is why I support, you know, when Ms. Spence said, who has just been a supporter of us from the beginning, and said, okay, let's have a town hall, let's talk about it. But we really need to do the work. I don't want to keep y'all on here forever. Rashad knows I have said in his office, and Rashad, what we're going to do, you know. And that day when he was talking about that young man, I had just come into the building. Rashad was coming out, and we heard gunfire everywhere. And I was stunned. But y'all know what? Rashad kept right on walking. And then, you know, to hear that it's someone that he had talked to, it just keeps hitting us, y'all. It just keeps hitting us. But, you know, we got to come up with big solutions, not little tiny ones, big solutions. And we have to demand that there's a chance, a change. If you want to talk about where to put that money in helping us build a youth village for our young people here in Baltimore.
Right. That's
agree. What I want.
I totally agree. And just like Brother McKenzie said, that was deep by going out to the hood and putting the computers out. That's a good idea. That's a real good idea. You know, and basically, just like the young lady said, kids just really need somebody to talk to, vent to, because a lot of times, because I've been doing daycare for 20 years, and I'm a daycare provider / mentor. So the kids, you know, sometimes they just need somebody to talk to, and I could tell sometimes when they come to me that their parents not listening to them, because they come to me and they always bum rush and they get mad when I don't listen, or when the other kids, you know, they just all fight for the attention. So yes, I totally agree that we all need to come up with us. I think we can do this. Everybody on this panel, I think we can do this. We don't need nobody, because that's what they think. We need them.
That's right.
If we do this ourselves, I think we will get the funding. Once we start, because you know, once we start and people see what we're doing and it's good, plus God's watching. It's God's work. Once he see that, he's going to bless us tremendously. And I think we should come up with a place, or come up with a facility where kids can come to from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night.
You got the plan. That is already in writing. We got Morgan University as a partner. They did the design. They had their architecture seniors to do the design. You know, but yes, we have to do things like this so that you know what we're trying to do. And I'm telling you, honey, you done just warmed my heart up. I got to hold the tears back. Because I've been waiting to hear somebody else say that. Rashad, you know I pick on you all the time, but Lord knows you just...
Yeah, it's time. It's time to stop talking. You know, we can do this. We can do this.
Yes,
you know.
All right, y'all. Well, listen, let me say this, right? Because I think we have to keep that in perspective. Again, when we come to the solutions-oriented conversations, relationships are built that is able to forward the work. I know what we mean when we say come together and stop talking, but we got to keep talking. Communication is the key thing that's going to
Okay. Understand communication is the key, but I think we should do more walking than talking. That's what I think.
Can I jump in there for a minute?
Hold on. I got to play moderator and pull it back. I was trying to let y'all flow, but right now we getting a little bit off. I seen Ms. Bullock had her hand up, and I want to give her opportunity, and I don't want our guests to forget that we have a panel and we have a segment of the dialogue where we want to come to you guys questions and your communication. So let me pull it back in a little bit. Let me get Ms. Bullock's question in, and then I want to make sure that we kind of stay the course that's been charted out by the organizers. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Thank y'all so much. Come on, Ms. Bullock.
Well, actually, it's more of a statement than a question. I'm with Choo Smith Youth Empowerment, and Choo Smith has had our organization, actually we're 15 years old, and beknownst to some of you, we actually already have a plan that we are going to be dealing with the, the old KIPP Academy building. We're getting ready to build a communiversity where it is going to do exactly what you all are talking about. We have our architectural designs. We're talking about an $80 million project. We already have some backers behind it. So having you guys all on here just really warmed my heart. I was just waiting for folks to say, oh, this is what we need. And Choo, you know, as a former Globetrotter, we've been wanting this work for 15 years. And now we finally got the space to do what we want. So just like Miss Valerie, we are partnered up with her. We're trying to become a community. We're not just gonna come in and it's gonna be Choo Smith stuff. No, it's all of us. I'm from Baltimore, Choo's from Baltimore. My grandfather's church was on Belvedere Avenue. So I'm very, very, very familiar. But I wanna let y'all know you got some hope. We are in the process. Our architectural designs are being done as we speak. We should be finalized by December. So when I mean we have property in hand, that KIPP building will not be standing. Just a FYI. We are going to demo it and build something new, something better, and something that the kids, the community, everybody can be a part of. Yes, sir, Mr. Ridgely.
Okay, question. What about the kids that can't make it to Ricestown?
So I was going, and let me check back in, because again, y'all gonna make me play moderator tonight. And I was getting ready to say, because that's where we have the problem, right? And it's a Baltimore thing. And I'm a Baltimorean that can talk to it, because what'll happen is I got young people that won't come 4 blocks from where they live to a resource. But at the same time, what we have to do is learn to champion someone else's cause, because if they get it built, it then lays a blueprint for what is successful, and you can take that model and bring it to your community. But y'all know the plan. A lot of in Baltimore, we gonna, you know, if it ain't my neighborhood, I ain't gonna back it and I ain't gonna get behind it. That's something that we also gonna have to deal with. But I gotta get through the rest of the things that they gave me, and one of the things that's really important that's on this list. And don't get me wrong, everybody on here, y'all start exchanging emails in the chat and all of that sort of thing. FaceTime call, we gonna do all of that. And I bring some of y'all on the chop shop, and you can have a whole hour to talk for yourself, but we can't do it that way here. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about. One of the things I want to talk about, I recently reached out and partnered with an organization to bring into my church that's going to train my entire ministry team, as well as a few others that I hand selected on being trauma-informed care, right? You ain't going to come in my church. We're going to dump some oil on your head, jump up and down and around, and because we did what make us feel good, send you back out without the we're into the same situation. No, we're going to be able to give you some food to leave with. We're going to be able to make phone calls because we have the relationships necessary to connect you to what you need in the sense of resources, whether it's on demand, drug treatment, and all of those kinds of things. The question is, what do we need to do to implement trauma-informed care on a larger scale to help the agencies and organizations that's designed to help really know and understand how to deal with the people that they say they want to help?
Stop talking. Can I say something? I'm with Excellence and Ambition.
Can jump in.
I'm sorry.
I'll come back to you. Did anyone want to speak to it? If not, I can go to Miss Amber.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna jump in. Just tonight has been, first of all, completely loaded. And I just want to say, Amira, thank you for your statement. Completely powerful. And I think that while we're talking about all these grand things, all they want is a space to listen, to be heard, right? That's the only thing they want. So why can't we create these moving spaces where they can be heard? It don't have to be a building. It could be a building. It could be a tent when the weather is nice, where we say, this is a place where you can be heard. This is a place where you can take a nap and rest. This is a place where it's adults, it's people that's here. We just listening. That's it. Because that being heard, your trauma being heard.
God is moving. He's moving.
Experience being heard in and of itself is healing. And then I was going to say, defunding the police is a great idea. But look where we are in 2020. We're in the middle of an entire race war. I'm not going to the oppressor holding money asking him.
Right. That's right.
The solution is us.
It's us.
Crazy.
We got to do it. Tell them, sister.
And while I'm talking about mental health, the core of your mental health is your sense of spirituality, which I believe has been greatly compromised in Black people, right? And so you heard me say we got to hold these businesses accountable. I told y'all myself.
Right. That's right.
We also have to hold our churches accountable for
all of them.
Their definition of spirituality, and it just being a better by and by, it just being a Holy Ghost filled service. What happened time where Black people and spirituality was also race consciousness, right? And the uplift of our people. Y'all want to be open on Sunday, your people come in on Sunday and they leave back out. Nah, that doesn't work. We are a spiritual people, and if we don't have a sense of our own spirituality and what that means, how we defined it outside of a white evangelical Jesus,
that's right.
We'll never get anywhere. If I'm empty inside, I can show everybody and wake up in the morning and do whatever I'm doing. And I'm a believer. I'm a Jesus, God, Holy Ghost filled Jesus. But my Jesus ain't white, and he ain't evangelical, and he ain't a prosperity teaching Jesus. He is a for the people, the gospel, the kingdom being preached to the orphan, to the widow, to the hurt, to the dying. He's a social kind of Jesus. And until we get our Black ministers like Rashad is doing, our people to say, hey, you can't just have a building in our community and you not do nothing.
That's right.
People like you, Pastor, people like my grandmother who are in these positions to say, because I'm not in that position, right? Because I'm not a pastor, so I don't have the full power and authority to be like, yo, pastor, you can't do that. But these pastors, y'all pastors that's on here, y'all can go to your fellow people and be like, what y'all doing?
But my church should be a hub for the expansion of the work that you're doing. You should be able to have an office or functioning space in my church once or twice a week for the work that you're doing. Mr. Ridgely, every time you be the amen corner, because of the way the technology is, you cut off the voice of the person speaking. I love you, but I want to make sure that we can hear everybody clear. Miss Amber, the YEP director, come on and talk to us. we talking about trauma-informed care. Really, is it cool, Pastor Spence, now that we coming down the home stretch on this last half hour, to kind of open the floor up a little bit? All right, now listen, we're going to open up the floor, but I'm going to need y'all to still flow with me and let me direct traffic because I got to make sure that I hear from Amira some more, right? And I don't want us to get to doing our old folks thing where we chopping it up and we don't get to hear from our young people. Come on, Miss Amber.
Hello, everyone. Peace and love. I really am enjoying this conversation because my foot is right in the community. For the past 5 years, I'm able to grow within my community. I'm from Park Heights and Shirley. A lot of you guys are involved right in my community. I'm grateful to even be able to speak to you guys today. But my main concern is we're dealing with first trauma. Like, we got to acknowledge that we are dealing with so much trauma that it's unbearable. As soon as you step foot out of your door, you may deal with, you know, the feeling of no one being fed, or the feeling of the lack thereof. So we are spiritually drained. We are spiritually people that's drained, and we have to give life, and we are people full of life, and we have to acknowledge that. So to bring a solution, because that's what I'm about, we need to have people that's on deck 24/7, standing with these people on the corner, knowing them by first name and last name, similar to back in the day. You know, I'm very appreciative of Marvin, who set up a tent and hired the community and already have people who were jobless now with a job. So the things that we're dealing with is homelessness. Half of us are homeless. Like, we got to be real. We don't have a home to call home, and an environment to even give our children to say, hey, you are safe here. You know, everybody got their foot in the door to some money, and we aren't even working with our community spiritually. So yeah, we're going to hold the churches accountable, but the churches need to be funded. The churches need to have the money available. So the defunding of the police is needed because they aren't doing their job. They allow crimes to happen. They cause trauma themselves, meaning when we call them, they aren't solving the problem. They are creating a suspect instead of helping the trauma that I just witnessed or I'm trying to avoid. So we're not dealing with someone that we can trust. So we need to call on our community. And a lot of you guys are the faces of these communities that we're naming right now. So if we're going to have
Let me
community.
throw this at you real quick, because it's right in line with what you're talking about, and the way that the question is phrased. I want to throw it to you this way to see what I can pull out of you specifically. What proven methods would be effective to change the spiritual tone or the negative mindset of the people of our city? What things do we know is already working?
Right now, what is working in our community is, in the one that I'm in, Park Heights and Shirley, and located on Pimlico.
Yep.
I really believe what would work is a 24/7 teen community dealing with mental development, because some of our brains aren't even fully developed. Some of these people are on street meds where they belong on meds and need to be monitored. So they're taking meds, granted, but they aren't taking it correctly, or they're overusing it, or it's improper use. So we need a counselor on deck. And it might be a lot on the church to have a counselor 24/7, but I feel like some of the funding that we quote unquote was supposed to get from the Horseshoe Live, wherever you want to call this money, and then they ended our kids' school year early and gave us a whole bunch of alternative devices, calling it a teaching program, and doesn't give our kids any type of mental stability. Mental stability does come through spirituality. So we need to even host some spiritual training courses for the people who are developed to even cater to the community, because our community doesn't even trust each other. So we need to really go back into the roots. Who are the faces?
I'm gonna come back to you to get some more of that good stuff, but I want to make sure that we can get people in. And Ms. Bullock has been unmuted for quite a while, making me assume that she got something that she
No,
no,
I just didn't mute. I'm just being quiet.
You just being quiet, blessed quietness, holy quietness.
Yeah, could I say something?
Who's that asking to say? Come on, David.
Yes, sir.
Brother.
Yeah, my name is David Murphy. I published this publication, the National Black Unity News newspaper. I'm a Baltimorean. I've been living here all my life. I'm 69 years old. I've been out there for 40-something years, highlighting people like yourself. That's what I do. I take people who's doing things in the community and I put them in the publication so I can expose what they're doing so they can have a further outreach. But I just want to say this to you all. The same thing that's happening in Baltimore is happening in Chicago, Philadelphia, all over the place. We all have the same issues. Why is that? When you got so many people working in the vineyard like yourselves, but you know, we have to go to the root. You know, we can put a lot of band-aids on a lot of issues. All of y'all serving in your capacity, and I appreciate that. You're doing what you have to do as individuals. But there's a host of us all over the place doing this and doing that. But yet, the problem is getting worse. And one of the reasons is being this. It's systematically programmed. It's systematically put upon us. Like someone said earlier, you're going to the same person that causing the problems. You're going to the same people to fund us who have put no issues on it. So when I was coming up, they paid me to go to school, to learn a trade. Paid me. I did transportation, everything I needed. It was paid for. I came up when Pennsylvania Avenue we had a black hospital. I came up when we had our own theaters. We had our own everything in our own communities. And we didn't ask nobody, even before my time, the Marcus Garvey, they did all sorts of things. They did colleges, everything else through all types of opposition. So really, we have always had what we need. But what we don't need is to blame others. Because like I say, the thing is always going to point back at us. Yeah. Now, since we all workers in the vineyard, and we know that things by the government all the way down is not working in our best interest. So we have to take up the gauntlet ourselves. And each one of you continue to do the work that you do. But for the first time, even though we all say we're working on the same level, but you know that old system divide and conquer always come into play. They give you fun, like the young lady said, because I'm in this program, she can't go to that program. Or if I'm in this part of the community, the young people not gonna go across there because they got rules and regulations themselves that they made themselves. You know, they can't go across certain streets or they will get shot. Mm-hmm. They know this. Mm-hmm. And so what you have to do is this. And whoever decided to do this, this Zoom call is a great step because it does take communication. But it takes more than that. You're going to really have to pump up your sleeve. You know what you're up against. Then you all got God on your side. You know what you're truly up against? Yourselves. We got to stop, you know, like I say, the work has been done. See, like I said, I deal with media. I've been dealing with media. Propaganda is one powerful tool, a powerful tool. You know, it takes our children from the music they listen to, the stuff they hear and see all around their lives, the community they grow in. This is what that's reality for them. All this talking and all what we can do and what we want, they don't want to hear that. Matter of fact, they even blame you, because I used to blame my elders. Why did y'all let this go on? Y'all saying y'all need to do this and do that, but yet here I am suffering. I was a teenage alcoholic.
So, Brother David, let me begin to pull you in. Where we at with the solutions? I know we talked about, because one of the things I do want to share, right, is I learned that we got everything from the $80 million project that you're working on to the low-hanging fruit when I go set up a table on the corner and give jobs and opportunities to people. And I think we have to really focus more on how we appreciate that work. Mm-hmm. Even earlier today, I had a powerful conversation with my brother Rashad about how we can put capacity to what he's already doing. This is where I think we miss it a lot of times, because the truth is we on here, we get to preaching, we preaching to the choir.
Yep.
Right? We preaching to the choir, we preaching to the folks that are actually already in the fray doing the work, when the conversation could be more of a tone of how Danelle got something going on Tuesday. I'm doing something on Wednesday. Rashad got his thing on Thursday. And before you know it, we got something every day where people can turn to.
That's exactly right.
1,001 times. And I've told pastors, stop trying to pray them drug boys off your corner. Call me. Let me set up the table right there and give them some jobs.
Okay, let me say this on that same note. Just what I just said. That's what I did. This is a solution-oriented publication. Now, we put in here solutions, but they're all across the country in this publication. But the same thing you just said. Information, remember we said information communication is powerful. Can you imagine if you had a guide? They could be a newspaper, it could be a Zoom call, it could be a resource guide. Can you imagine with all these resources right there? I don't care what community you in. You can say, I can go here and get food, I can go get shelter, I can go get jobs, I can go get this. I can get all of these things. If you have somebody put it, and I'm willing to work with anybody. But see, if you put all of these resources, a resource guide, with all of this information, all the willing workers are, and those, so it won't be no excuse when you go in that corner and talk to these young people. What's your need here?
They know where to go.
That's
Thank
right.
you again, Brother David, but I got to shift because Sister Jalea wants to speak, 17 years old, one of our young people, and I'm going to tell y'all, I'll pump the brakes on every one of y'all on here when it's time for us to hear their voice. So come on, Sister Jalea, and then I'm going to come over to you, Pastor Isaac James.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Jayla Purvis. I'm 17 and I'm also with Sister Saving the City. I haven't heard the whole conversation because I'm at work, but
wow.
I know this boy and he's 15. He's homeless and he's trapping. And he's trapping so he sells weed and stuff so he can support himself for food, for clothing, for housing, all that other stuff. And a solution that I wanted to provide for other youth in his situation is maybe like a homeless shelter is something that's closer in the Park Heights area for teens, because I know that there's some, but they are more towards downtown. And then jobs, like because of his age, he can't get an actual job, and he wants an actual job, he just can't get one because of his age, and it's illegal for children his age to work. So if there was some way, and I know at Sister Saving the City, we do stuff where at any age, but the amount of people that we can provide jobs with is limited because of the amount of grant money that we get, which isn't a lot. Like, we stretch it throughout what few we have, and it's still not enough. That's why we started doing the things that we've done, like making T-shirts to sell and a drive-in theater in the back of Sister Saving the City. But there either needs to be more money provided to small organizations like Sister Saving the City, or there needs to be more organizations like Sister Saving the City, so people can get more help and be provided with what they need. But that's all I have to say.
Jayla, thank you for that very valuable commentary. Hey. And as a person that's been in workforce development for almost 20 years, I remember when a person 14, 15, or 16 could get a job. And it is really troublesome right now because a lot of it had to do with the school system. When I first started at Yo Baltimore 10 years ago, we were 16 to 24. Now we 18 to 24 because the schools were losing funding. But if you between the ages of 16 and 18 and conventional education ain't working for you, you just out there to fend for yourself. And I thank you for bringing up that point, Jayla, because those are some of the discussions that we really need to make sure that we're having, that we have those resources in place other than just summer jobs, and how can we expand those programs to be year round, so that we're able to keep young men like the person she's talking about from having to go out there and put his life in harm's way just to be able to survive. Come on, Pastor Isaac James.
I just wanted to say this, that I just want to thank everyone tonight, but I also hear in the spirit that we have got to support one another. It was such a powerful young lady said about us communicating. Even this lady right here, that's the social worker, you know, and all that we hear, we need to support one another, but we need to have either some kind of newsletter or something starting from this where we're communicating with one another. I really think, Pastor McKenzie, I'm gonna say this to you, I took the trauma training through a reentry program. Trauma is needed very bad. The training is awesome, but we can't put it on the pastors because the pastors, a lot of them have not been trained in trauma. And also, one thing that I think is important that we need to do tonight is that we need to carry this conversation to where we work, where we eat, where we sleep. I'm glad that I heard about these wonderful people on this line, but there is an army that is not on this line, is waiting for us to unite, to empower them. We have lieutenants, we have ministries, we have people out here who have dedicated their lives. One thing the young lady said tonight that really bothers me, there should be money earmarked specifically for youth in Park Heights. All this money is going into Park Heights for the master plan, but if we really look at the crime and we look at the drop in graduations, youth are dropping out, teen pregnancy. I did the CDC report a few years ago. I was devastated at the numbers that are in Park Heights. So we need to educate our community as well as become advocates for change.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all. We're about 10 minutes out from 8:30, and I know we got to get ready to start wrapping this up. So what I want to do, Mr. Ridgely, if you can get it in and give me about 35 seconds of it, I can shoot to you, because what I want to do is give each of our panelists the opportunity to give us a final thought, and then we're going to talk about next steps, and we're going to close this puppy out. Come on, Mr. Bridget. You muted, brother. You muted, brother.
Wait a minute.
My bad. My bad. Hey, I have a partner that's going to be doing it with me. Her name is Tonya. I want y'all to hear her opinion.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, just quick. So I've heard pretty much a little bit in and out of the conversation, but I think one of the key things that everybody is forgetting to mention as well is Maslow's hierarchy for these children is, if I don't have food, I don't have money for food, I'm going to find a way to sustain myself with getting food. Like the young lady said, she has a friend that's 15 that's out here and he's trapping because he doesn't have a place to stay. I'm a mother of 4 sons. My son currently is doing the same thing. He doesn't have to, but he chooses to, because to them, that's the spotlight. To them, these guys have these cars, they have this money, they have these girls, and they want to look like their neighbor. They want to be able to fit in. So I think one of the concerns and the issues is maybe somebody needs to get out, and there needs to be a team developed where you go out to these businesses that are having now hiring sign and see and network with them, communicate with them, build a relationship with them, see how many of these children they're willing to hire. And maybe that's a little bit of a start to get some of them maybe off the street. They're not going to make the same money that they made, but at least they'll be making something to sustain themselves, so they don't have to hustle and they don't have to sell drugs and they don't have to put themselves in harm's way.
Well, one of the things I want to tell you about businesses here, whenever you get into that conversation, you're going to run into 2 things. You're going to run into labor law issues. And then the second thing you're going to run into is liability issues as it pertains to insurance. One of the things that happened when you had 16-year-olds able to work in retail, insurance was incredibly high because you were dealing with people that weren't adults. So many of the retailers shifted to 18 and over because they want to save money on their insurance premiums. So it kind of bumped our 16 and 17 year olds out of being able to get some of that work. And I know that because I worked in workforce development. We get ready to run the round robin of our panelists. I'm going to start with our sister Jayla and let her kick us off tonight because she has a final thought. And I want to say thank you as I go to each panelist for the amazing contribution that you made tonight, being unselfish with your time and with your information and your knowledge. Jayla, won't you start us off?
Okay, my last thought. I was talking to this officer, and he was telling me that the way that they train officers is even the slightest threat. If you feel threatened at all, even if they do not have a weapon, to defend yourself with what you have, because if they get too close, then they can take your weapon and then do harm to you. And while I told him, yes, that's a good point, still, the weapon should be a last resource. But if I feel like that you can see it from both perspectives, but if certain kids at certain ages are groomed to be hard, no matter who they're dealing with, and to have that tough exterior where I don't play no games, I don't care who you are, which is why most kids don't have zero respect for the police. Like hopping on their cars and telling them in their face, F you, and I don't care what you gotta say and all that other stuff. But I don't know what a solution can be for that, but I just wanted to address that problem.
Jayla, I'm a part of the core team for this commissioner's community policing plan. Danelle, I want you to put Jayla in touch with me, because two things that I want to do is I want to get her involved with that core team work that we're doing as we looking at development and implementation for training for the commissioner's community policing plan, and their opportunities through this consent decree for her voice to be heard. First of all, to understand what the police's training actually is, and to have input in what the training should be or can be as they working through this consent decree plan. With that being said, Mr. Nell, excellent ambition. I love you, sis. You're an amazing.
So Amira's like, yeah, I want to go too. I want to be a part of that. Put me in there. We got a good 3 or 4 young people that I already know are down. So thank you so much, Jayla and Amira, for representing Excellence and Ambition and Sister Saving the City. And I mean, the work that we are doing, not just us, not just our organization, there are multiple organizations that are working with the demographic of 14 to 21, those who can't get jobs, and helping them start businesses. We are asking the panel right now to support their businesses. If you are getting t-shirts printed, come and talk to us so our young people can get whatever, that money that you would be using, because it goes right back to them. It is their jobs. We are hiring 14-year-olds. We are hiring 15-year-olds in that capacity to do things like sell their shirts, sell their designs, sell their sneaker designs. Anything that they are doing, their masks, their hand sanitizer, anything that they are selling. We got a young lady selling self-defense spray in a lipstick container. We got another young lady. We got young people who have businesses that need support, and that we know that you have the reach to get to others that will support them enough where they don't have to be out here selling drugs and doing things they shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. And we want to train other young people. Give us the squeegee kids. Give us the ones on juvenile justice. Let's teach them how to flip and change the product that they're selling, and turn it into something positive for the community. That's my last word. Yeah.
Miss Cooper Nicholas, I'm like you. I give the squeegee kids every time I run into them some money, and I tell them just like this. I say, man, this is for not deciding to go sell dope or beat somebody upside their head. Just because you chose to do it another way, I'm gonna bless you. Amira, come on and give us some final thoughts.
My final thoughts is I want to piggyback off of what Jayla said, and I just want to let y'all know it's always a reason why a kid is on the streets. It's always, even if it's not the most reasonable reason, it can be stuff at home. It can be stuff. That's why I keep really wanting to push that people need to listen to the youth. Everybody keeps saying they want to help the youth, but you're not listening. You're not helping us because you're not hearing us. We have a voice for a reason. Kids are on the streets because they're insecure. They want to fit in because of society's views and standards of us, of what we're supposed to be. It's the masculinity in young men, and that they're instilled with, and that you got to be hard up, and that you can't show emotion, and that you always got to make more money than everyone else. It's not about that. It's about being successful and being you know, able to hold your own, but also with help and in the correct way, you know. And about the police, it's not about using force. Because I feel like it's ridiculous that you feel the need to use force against a 14-year-old when you're trained in combat and you're trained to use your mace and you're trained to use your tasers. Your gun should not be your first option at all. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Amira. You said a mouthful. Again, I just get a kick out of hearing you guys so articulate and understanding where you are on major issues in our community. Chat, I got to come to you, brother, and say thank you, first of all, for all the great work that you're doing to be a contributor to what needs to happen in our city. Give us some final thoughts, my brother.
All right. First of all, to the youth and to everyone on the call, honestly, some of my people already know. Y'all got a brother you ain't know you had, because that's what Jesus did for me. And when I choose to engage in that relationship, I am successful. I'm here for everyone. I'm here for everyone's success. I think the important things I took away from this that I really want to proliferate is we need to stop relying on and fighting over crumbs that's being thrown around by a system that's built to oppress our people. We need to rely on ourselves because we have the resources to do that. There's a reason why the system is built to divide us racially, gender-wise, politically, every way possible. And you ain't going to hear a chaplain say this much, but let me just say it in closed company, fuck that. We got each other. We don't need nobody else. Forgive me, pastors. Forgive me, bishops. But I'm not about that. I'm all about, look, everything I do is volunteer. Everything I do is out of pocket. I stay broke, but you know what? I don't miss no meals. I don't choose to miss because God, I cannot outgive him no matter how hard I try. And that's what I want to say to you guys is have faith, step out in faith, give everything you got, give it away because God will replace it with more because he knows where your heart is and he knows where it's going.
All right, I think y'all gonna know what I mean when I say this. The funeral directors are flagging me down from the back of the church. Charm, I want to thank you for your contribution. Can you give us something really quick?
Absolutely. I want to just thank the organizers and all the panelists. It has been a privilege, definitely to take part and to hear the work that everybody is doing, and especially from the young people. I mean, for me, the whole thing was encapsulated in what you had to say. And for me, my closing remarks would be that every natural problem that we have has a spiritual solution. And all this stuff is about who we are as a people spiritually and our connection to God and our connection to each other and our connection to our community. And that trauma is spiritual, right? The impact is spiritual, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's physical. And who can heal that but God?
Talk about
right. That's right.
Of that but God. And so we must learn who we are. We the helpers, right? We must learn who we are. We must heal who we are, and then we must teach who we are, right? In a way that is culturally relevant, educational, and entertaining. Again, I'm going to go back to this movement of Sunday service by Kanye West. It's another level of spirituality, but that the young people have embraced, and that I think is something here that could work in Baltimore City to bring us together in a way that's not traditional, in a way that
y'all getting me in trouble.
In a way that doesn't look like religion, but it looks like spirituality, because our young ladies out here empty. And what do we want to fill them but God, period. We've always been a spiritual people, and that's the core of our mental well-being.
Chom, you getting the invite to the Chop Shop, sis, because I need you to come on my show and really have this conversation with me. And I don't want to get in trouble with Corinne, my friend, my brother, Pastor Rashad Singletary. I need you to give me the real funeral 2 minutes, not the 2 minutes where you take 5. Come on, brother.
I got you, bro. Watch this. Don't forget our role, our responsibility, and our task. The brilliance of the Black young mind is still active, even if it's on the corner. Let's talk, but let's also have faith that has works.
Amen. As we thank our panelists, as I personally take our opportunity to thank our panelists tonight for allowing me to guide this great dialogue, I want to say to the Baltimore Action Catalyst Team, thank you for the invite. I had an amazing time. Thank you for entrusting me to facilitate this dialogue. And I don't want to leave out the most important people that we have tonight. I end every Chop Shop by saying this. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Of course it makes a sound, but there was nobody to hear it. So the most important people tonight wasn't those of us that were booked to be here. It was those of you that chose to be here, our audience. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life and schedule to be a part of this major dialogue. The one last thing that I do want to put out there is I'm here for all of it, which means I'm volunteering right now. We have another program that's coming up about a month from now. But all of this time that we got from now until then, Ridgely, Pastor Isaac James, anybody on here, I'm ready to do some work groups as we build up to, if we lead this conversation and it ain't some relationships built and some work groups happening around the great things that Miss Amber and Excellence and Ambition and other people are doing, everybody that sat on here tonight and talked you a fraud. Everybody, that's right. I put it out there and I can fight the project. Right? So I'm hoping that some relationships are built. My church, my desire for my church is to be a community hub. It's a huge space with a lot of places where training and other things that can happen. So I want us to make that happen. We have our next discussion coming up. I'm trying to find it in my notes here.
November 23rd.
November the 23rd, and that's going to be facilitated by my big brother, the world-renowned former Harlem Globetrotter, Mr. Choo Smith. I have such great respect. When I was a pup in this work, trying to just get myself together, it was brothers like him and Keon Carpenter and others that gave me opportunity to be a part of what they were doing, and it helped me get my feet wet in what real advocacy work was like. So I thank God for Brother Choo, and he's going to be on with Miss Bullock, I believe, and they're going to be facilitating our dialogue. The topic is a little different. They're going to be talking about technology, communication, education, and retooling. So we want to make sure that we tune in if we're available for that on that day, or make ourselves available so that we can be in a continuation of the discussion. Miss Spence, Pastor Spence, I thank you. You're a pastor that's under one of my mentors, Bishop James Dukes, who's with us tonight. I love the great things that the Gathering Well is doing here in Baltimore. Thank you so much for entrusting me with this opportunity. And with that being said, I turn it back into your more than capable hands to shut it down. Now start inboxing her, Miss Bullock.
All that's really left to say is amen.
Amen.
I'm appreciative. Choo Smith organization, Karen Bullock, I'm so appreciative of you all. I'm appreciative of every panelist. You all said it all. Now we just have to do it.
Right.
We have to bring it all to the table, and we have to do it and move our city, move our communities, move our families, move our friends, move them forward. Thank you all so very, very much. I appreciate it. Stay tuned. We will be back.
That's right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Spence.
Pastor Spence, if we're not already, can you put us into a group text, me and the panelists, because I do want to further conversation and work with the wonderful people that were on here with us tonight.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
The Lord.
Certainly will.
All right. All right.
Good night.
Good night.
God bless.
God bless.